Are you right at the cusp of an SAT 1500 just trying to get a couple more extra questions right? Or are you trying to get past 1550 but you just can't seem to get out of 1510? Are you lit crazy at math but the reading section just bites you in the back, or vice versa? Then this video is for you. Hi guys, if you don't know me, my name is Timothy Leung. I am a freshman studying at Yale University from the Bay Area. I recently posted a stats and extracurriculars video about my college application, and by far the most commented thing was an SAT tips video. To that I say, ask and you shall receive. I received a 1560 on my SAT with an 800 in math and a 760 in reading and writing. And today I wanted to just walk you guys through general tips on how you can approach the SAT, tips during exams, and especially tips on how to just get a couple extra questions right. Maybe you're cramming last minute before the exam. Regardless, this video is for you. I took the SAT 3 times. The first time I got a 1510, and then I got a 1540 before finally getting a 1560. And I remember I would be literally like morning of the exam, like searching up these YouTube videos, like please give me a better score. So hopefully I can provide some insight wherever you are in your SAT journey. But that's not all. Here at Yale, I've realized that my lived experiences are obviously very different from so many other people's, and therefore my audience's lived experiences might be different as well. So today, throughout the video, I will be asking peers of mine here at Yale about their journey with the SAT, tips that they have, so that hopefully you can get a well-rounded perspective of the many ways that people have tackled the SAT. But if you like this video and want to see more insights on the college application process or life afterwards, which is even better, life at Yale, please consider subscribing. Videos are coming, trust. Okay, let's get on with the video. So my very first tip is to have a general timing plan. What this means is that you should know exactly where you want to be in the exam at every specific time checkpoint. And every time you practice, you should hold yourself to that time. I definitely struggled a lot with timing on the SAT, specifically the reading and writing section, but you really just have to be strict with yourself to not spend too much time on any one question, because that will just backlog you even further. Specifically for the reading and writing, since there are 2 modules with 27 questions each in 32 minutes, I would recommend maybe spending 1 minute on every question and then using those last couple minutes to check your answers. It's important that you provide yourself some buffer in case there's a really difficult question, and so that you can check your work afterwards. I'd also recommend, if you still have time to practice, that you do a couple practice exams where the time limit is less. Maybe give yourself just 27 minutes per module and see what that does, because if you can do it within a shorter amount of time, you'll have an easier time doing it in a longer amount of time. But yeah, this can apply to any section. You can literally do it if your exam is in 2 hours. Just make sure that you have a plan and you stick to it. So the tip is, have a system of what is an easy, hard, and super hard question. In essence, especially if you're trying to get just a couple more questions right on your score, you want to know exactly what questions you're going to get wrong while taking the exam. So when you mark an easy question, that's you saying, I am 100% certain or 99.9% certain that this is correct. And you want to be really, really, really strict with yourself. In mock trial terms, because you guys know I'm a mock trial person now,
your car,
it needs to be beyond a reasonable doubt that the question, your response to it, is correct. I would even argue beyond a reasonable doubt, because you just want to know, what questions am I getting right? Then, for the questions that you're uncertain on, maybe you're weighing between 2 different options, or you're just not sure about why your specific answer is right. Those are considered hard questions, because you are probably right, it's your intuition, but there's definitely a chance that it's wrong. And finally, super hard questions are like, what is going on? I genuinely have no clue. Unfortunately, I think with the digital format now, you can't like mark questions different ways, because I remember I would used to do 1 circle for hard and 2 circles for super hard. But a way around this is, hopefully you can get scratch paper and write down what you think is hard and what you think is super hard. And then tying back to the last tip, you have an allotted time after every section left for you to go back to these questions. First, go back to the super hard questions, and then go back to the hard questions. I want to really emphasize that when you're picking out what's an easy question versus the rest, again, you have to be really, really, really strict with yourself. Because if you're trying to jump from a 1490 to a 1510, or a 1540 to a 1570, that's a matter of a couple questions. And so you want to really, really know exactly what those questions are that might be making or breaking your score. So if you're just not understanding a passage, but you feel like an answer is right, just mark it as hard anyways, so that you know that there's a possibility it's wrong. And I know I'm talking a lot about reading and writing, but pretty much all of these tips can be applied to math as well. Have your hard and super hard questions. I just talk more about reading and writing because that's what I struggled with more. My last general tip, this is kind of only for if you still have time to study, but just listen anyways, is if you're trying to get those couple extra of points or questions correct, sometimes you might be focusing on the wrong section. So throwback to when I was in junior year many moons ago, crazy. I think I was at a 1540, but for me, it was 1550 or above was the standard, was the norm. I was going into my third time taking the exam, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so annoying. I don't know how I'm just going to get these couple extra points higher. And what a mentor told me was maybe you're focusing on the wrong things, because I knew that for me, I struggled most with reading questions, and that's separate to me from grammar questions. Math, I was fine with, I was getting 790, 800, but for reading, I was getting like 6 questions wrong. However, that's not to say that I wasn't getting a couple questions wrong in grammar, and wasn't sometimes getting 1 or 2 questions wrong in math. So my mentor was like, you've been working so hard on reading and you're kind of reaching a plateau. Why don't instead you try to make sure that for writing and math, you can get a perfect score? Because at the end of the day, a 1540 to a 1560, those 20 points can be achieved in the reading section, in the writing section, or the math section. So if you feel like there is one place of the exam that is just not your tea, and you've been working hard at it and it's just not getting better, maybe reorient your focus to things that are your tea, but are not your piping hot tea yet.
What would you do if when you're okay, so he said yes would go? I don't know what you mean there, babes.
Things that you could, if you just put a little extra effort in, you could get a couple more questions right. And those questions are gonna be a lot easier to get right than the questions in the reading. Hello. Hello. But either way, you're going to get 20 more points from getting a set of questions more correct. Does that make sense? I don't know. That was low-key like revolutionary to me. I was like, oh wait, you look right. And then I got a 1560 because I focused more on the grammar questions and making sure I had an 800 on math. Food for thought, maybe. Hi everyone. So before we move on with the next SAT tip, I want to take a quick break to talk about another academic struggle for students, which are PDFs. If you're a student like me, you're probably going through so many PDFs like readings, lecture notes, maybe even a PDF about SAT tips, and sometimes they can get so overwhelming and you have no clue where to start, or there's so many words on a page and you don't know what's going on. And that's where UPDF comes in. It's an all-in-one PDF editor that literally does anything you want. So let me show you what it looks like inside. So you just have to put a PDF into the software and then boom, the world is your oyster. Right off the bat, you can annotate it, add comments, even change what the text is saying. And you can also have UPDF read the text for you in case you're running errands but still want to do your readings. So basically it does everything that any other PDF reader does and more. The best part though is the built-in AI assistant. With this, you can basically chat with the PDF. You can have it summarize the passage or explain a specific sentence, and it'll answer it for you. The assistant can even make you a mind map of ideas when you have super large documents that you need to make easier to understand. It's pretty insane. It's kind of like having a built-in study buddy who knows everything about your document but doesn't get tired of answering the questions. There's so much more you can do, like adding a digital signature for signing documents or changing the interface to protect your eyes at night. So please check out the link in my description for a free download of UPDF and a special discount link for the pro features. Let's get back to the SAT tips. For me, the content of math was very much covered a lot in my high school courses already, so it was not really an issue of figuring out how to solve the problem, but the questions that I did get wrong were always careless errors. But I actually found that advice that my calculus teacher gave me about careless mistakes applied a lot to my SAT taking skills, whatever. One of the biggest things that my math teacher said was just always pretend that you're wrong. In every step that you do, have a voice in the back of your head saying, wait, this is wrong. You'll notice that when you're reviewing your exam and you say, oh, I know this question is incorrect, and you look at it, suddenly it probably is a little bit more obvious, at least sometimes, why you did it wrong. So why is it that when you know that something's wrong, you can more easily tell what is wrong? Who knows? I'm sure there's a study on that. But what you can do to kind of simulate that process is always tell yourself that I'm pretty sure this is wrong. A couple other things, always be double checking literally everything. I usually finished quite early and I would double and sometimes even triple check. It really depends on what works for you. Also for me, I would double check first right after I did the problem, just by quickly glancing at my work, having that voice in the back of my head, putting things in the calculator. And then in my, I guess, triple check section, but pretty much double check, I would try to see if I can do the problem a different way and see if I come up with the same result. Because oftentimes when you're just double checking and reading your work, you're gonna have a little bit of bias in your head and you're not gonna be able to catch the mistakes if you're just going through the same steps again or even just reading what you've done. So when you're double checking first, always make sure that you do the problem from scratch on your paper. Don't just look at it and be like, yeah, that looks right. And second, if you can, do it an entirely different way. And that kind of relates to another tip on math I have, which is make the most of your resources. You have literally Desmos built in. Use that. For example, like if you have a system of equations, first solve it algebraically, but then in your double triple check, plot those equations and see where they intersect, and that will tell you. So yeah, make the most of what you have. Always pretend you're wrong and try to do problems a different way and see if you still come to the same answer. So my first one is don't try to read the answers before you answer the question. I would honestly cover up the answers, read the question, then the excerpt, and then try to come up with a response to that question before looking at the answers and then see what matches it. You want to know in your hardest of hearts what you think the right answer is because your gut is probably right on that. This tip really applies to the questions that ask you like, oh, which word best describes this word? Do you know what I mean? Like the word in the context of the passage. Definitely think of what word you think works and then see what matches. My next tip is your answer should always be supported by evidence and text in the excerpt. There should never be kind of like a jump in thinking when you go from the text to your answer. You should always be like, oh, this is correct because in the text it says here. And I know that's kind of vague and it feels hard to conceptualize, especially if the questions are broader. But the reasoning behind this is if there wasn't a clear, explicit reason for why one answer is correct, then everyone would be suing the College Board because how can you make a standardized test up to inference? So you should kind of position yourself inside the mind of whoever's writing the answer key and say, this answer is 100% the right answer because in the text it says X, Y, Z, and that's why none of the other answers can be correct. Remember, there can only be one right answer, and that right answer is super duper right. So try to, whatever response that you're picking, prove why it's super duper right. Another small quirky tip is like words that are super extreme in answers, like always, never, or almost always, things like that are probably incorrect because of the previous tip. There's probably not going to be enough evidence to support that something is always true. When it's kind of big idea questions, I would tend towards answers that are a little bit softer and more justifiable. Okay, this last section is going to be a bit of a just brief rundown of how I approach studying the SAT. This section is definitely more for people who have a bit more time, but stick around anyways, regardless of if your exam is in 30 minutes. Well, if it is, you should probably go to do that. Take a deep breath and you got this. Anyways, the biggest tip is to practice, practice, and practice. And the even more important thing is, sure, you can do all the tests you want, but if you don't review what you got wrong in detail after the test, there's no point in doing another one. What I personally did was every time I took a practice exam, I would first see what I got wrong and then try to do the question again without looking at the answer to see if I understood why I got it wrong. Then I would look at the answer, read the explanation, and then I had a notebook where I would write down literally every single question that I ever got wrong on a practice exam, what kind of question it was, what I did wrong, and optionally what I need to do next time to get it better. That sounds a bit overkill, but I mean, it worked. So the kind of takeaway from that is You really need to be using your critical thinking skills when you're reviewing what you got wrong. Because again, these questions are what are stopping you from going from 1490 to 1510 or whatever. So you need to be able to figure out on test day, how am I going to avoid making these mistakes? And the reason why what I did worked for me was because I categorized the problems that I got wrong. So on the exam, I would be like, oh, I see that this is this kind of problem. I need to really make sure that I don't make the mistake like how I did here. And in my notebook, I also just wrote down a list of a bunch of tips similar to the tips that I'm giving you today. In fact, I am referencing from those notes because writing it down will help solidify it in your brain. It's one thing to like know these tips, but when you're actually in the exam and like there's so much pressure and stress and there's a proctor, it might be a little bit different. I think a takeaway from this is do practice exams like they're the real exam. Put yourself under test conditions and do the same strategies that you would do and want to do in an exam. Hey vlog. Okay. Oh, I'm dark. Hi vlog. I'm here with Dylan, Sean, I'm Nathan,
Fong. I'm Mai.
Yarsh. Mai, where are you from?
I'm from Maine.
I wanna go to Maine. Thank you.
I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from San Mateo.
I'm from Connecticut.
I'm from Vietnam, but I moved to Virginia 2 years ago.
And what are you thinking of studying?
I'm studying mechanical engineering, maybe.
Probably neuroscience.
Molecular biology or neuroscience.
Chemical engineering.
Oh my god, guys, I'm looking at cognitive science, architecture, and statistics. So
Okay,
Yeah.
what did you get on your SAT?
I will keep it 15 something.
1570.
I got a 1570.
1570. I took it twice. First time I got a 1520.
I got a 1540.
guys, I took it 5 times. Wait, you don't know this. Guys, remember, I'm from Maine. Okay, standards are different there. I got a 1420 my first time. The next 4 times I took it, I got a 1450. Like the reading score continued to go up while the math went down.
Oh my god.
So I just kept getting the same freaking score
Wait,
every time. But the
kill
super
me.
score was also pretty bad, but it was a 1490. It was so desperate, guys.
Anyways, so in your 5 times taking the SAT, what did you do to achieve your score?
For the writing, like YouTube videos are your best friend, low-key. Like there's so many tips, like tip videos out there, and really like try and understand and learn the grammar rules.
For reading, I would read the questions first and then answer the questions, and then read and then answer the questions, and then
Low-key, I just did hella practice tests. There were a lot of them on like Khan Academy, and we got a couple of those like thick books that had them at the end. So I just did a lot of those.
I used to grind out all the Khan Academy practice tests when they had those. I recommend doing a lot of those practice tests, seeing exactly what you got wrong and targeting those questions and seeing why you got those questions wrong.
So basically, I make a big improvement in just 2 months. I started like my first ever practice test was like 900.
Oh my
something.
god.
It was like really bad. Like I basically grinded out the online resources, especially Khan Academy. That's my goal.
And do you have any advice to people taking the exam right now?
Honestly, depends on where you're from, low-key. But like if you're in not the Bay Area or New York, like take a breather for a second and know that it's going to be okay, you know?
But if you're from the Bay in New York, you'll also be fine, trust.
Yeah, trust.
I think score is not that matter, because like you just need to be above a benchmark and you're fine. A lot of people who have like 1600, they still don't get into good school because like it's not about your score. Don't be too stressed out. It's gonna be fine.
Okay, bye. You guys got this. Okay, guys, those are all of my and my peers' SAT tips. I hope you found this video helpful wherever you are in the process. I completely believe in you. If you have your exam coming up, you got this. Just believe in yourself. At the end of the day, breathe, and you will be just fine. For everyone studying, push through. It is worth it. Let me know what you guys want to see next. And again, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more content. You already know it. Please also check out the link in the description for UPDF's free download and also a special link for a discounted version of their premium plan. I love you all so much. I believe in you, and I'll see you later. Bye, vlog.